Part 10. My time is running out. Author, Chen Wu Nian. Chapter 91. Her skin was as white as cream, her eyelashes were long and narrow, and she had a pair of blue eyes. This face was extremely beautiful, with an exotic style. The woman's clothes set off her mature and proud figure, and also made her look heroic. But the problem was that this dress was completely strange to the people in Chen Tao's world. And the pair of dragon horns. What was wrong with this woman? When Rosser saw this woman, his expression became solemn, and he turned around and ran. He ran very fast, as if he didn't want to fight this woman. But this woman didn't care about this. The pair of dragon wings behind her flashed, and she pounced on Rosser. The silver-white longsword in her hand rolled. Rosser's body broke into 3 pieces and fell to the ground, with purple blood flowing. Seeing this, the woman put the longsword to her waist, spread her wings, flew into the sky, and flew away. This scene that was completely beyond common sense made everyone stare wide-eyed. Lin Na's eyes trembled. What did I just see? Lin Na slowly adjusted her mood and looked in the direction of Chen Tao, but found that Chen Tao was no longer there. She was slightly startled. Where is the master? In fact, when the woman with dragon horns flew into the sky, Chen Tao spread his wings and chased after her. The woman glanced at Chen Tao behind her, and she stopped her action, flying in the air, looking at Chen Tao. It seemed that she was waiting for Chen Tao to pass. Chen Tao flew in front of the woman. The woman glanced at the wings behind Chen Tao and looked at Chen Tao. Chen Tao looked at the woman in front of him. Beautiful. Although the woman in front of him looked different from ordinary people, her beauty was completely beyond common sense. There was almost no flaw. Chen Tao slowly gathered his mind, looked at the woman and said, "Who are you?" The woman didn't say anything, just stared at Chen Tao. When Chen Tao saw this, he didn't know what to do. The reason why Rosser could talk directly to Chen Tao was because Rosser entered Chen Tao's channel and used a program similar to a translator. But the problem was that Chen Tao didn't know the gene channel of the woman in front of him, and he couldn't enter her gene channel, so he couldn't use the translator to talk. Chen Tao said, "What is your gene channel?" "I can enter your gene channel, so I can write a program to talk to you." At this point, Chen Tao suddenly had a headache. She didn't understand at all, so how could she give him her channel? "It's very rude to ask a girl for a gene channel," the woman suddenly said. "Only the closest friends are qualified to enter the girl's private channel with the girl's permission. This is standard Earth Star language." Chen Tao said, "Can you speak my language?" The woman crossed her arms, smiled charmingly, and said, "As a dragon, it is not difficult to learn a civilized common language." As soon as this charming smile appeared, Chen Tao felt that the murderous temperament of the woman in front of him was gone, and what was left was a unique charm that only women have. The woman looked at Chen Tao, she smiled and said, "Let me introduce myself first. My name is Lin, I am a dragon. We dragons live about 30,000 light years away from here. We dragons exist to maintain the balance of the universe. I know what you want to ask. You want me. Why do I want to kill Rosser?" She looked at Chen Tao and said with a smile, "It's very simple to answer. The Kot Galaxy is an aerospace-level civilization, far beyond the civilization of your world. If you let the Kot Galaxy invade you, it will be devastating for your civilization. In order to maintain the balance of the universe, we dragons will not allow this to happen." Lin looked at Chen Tao for a while. She looked at Chen Tao and said, "Strange, as a pre-nuclear civilization, you have the genes of a second-level warrior." She crossed her arms and looked at Chen Tao strangely. Noticed Lin's demeanor. Lin looked too perfect, her frown and smile seemed to move Chen Tao's soul. Chen Tao suppressed his strange emotions and said, "What is the second-level warrior gene?" Lin looked at Chen Tao and said, "You don't know, that's even more strange." The second-level warrior gene is a technology that can only be encountered after reaching the aerospace-level civilization. It can upgrade the human genes and gain special abilities. The Kurt star you just saw is the owner of a second-level warrior gene. Well. At this point, Lin had to look at Chen Tao again and said, "Very special, your genes seem to be stronger than those of the Kurt star." Lin looked at Chen Tao, she showed a playful smile and said, "I really want to study you carefully, but unfortunately, I don't have much time. See you again if I'm lucky." She spread her wings behind her and flew into the sky. Chen Tao looked at Lin's back, and he didn't chase her. He just watched quietly and watched her leave. Dragon people, invaders of the Kurt galaxy. Today, Chen Tao met two people from civilizations outside the Earth. One is an invader, and the other is a person who maintains balance. Lin's charming and playful smile left a deep impression on Chen Tao. Dragon people. A little special. Chen Tao didn't think much about it, suppressed his boiling emotions, flapped his wings and flew down. Master seeing Chen Tao coming back. Lin Na's eyes lit up slightly. Chen Tao nodded slightly and said, "Pack up and go back." "Yeah," Lin Na responded. Chen Tao opened the micro wormhole, stepped into the micro wormhole, and returned to the deck. The people of the Teak galaxy intend to invade the Earth, but it seems that the combat power of the Dragon people's forces looks much stronger than that of the Kurt galaxy. It is estimated that there will be nothing on the Earth. Chen Tao has a special idea. There has been no invasion of foreign civilizations on the Earth until now. Is it because of the protection of the Dragon people? Chen Tao was too lazy to think about it, adjusted his mood, and entered the restaurant. "Let's go to eat." Dear, seeing Chen Tao come in, Zi Ching's eyes lit up slightly. He Yuxuan also smiled and said, "Are you back so soon?" Wu Yao sat at the dining table and looked at Chen Tao. Li Xiaolu's eyes on the side also showed joy. Seeing the four women, Chen Tao said, "Don't mind me, just keep eating." "Yeah." Chen Tao sat at the dining table, and number 3 beside him brought him bowls and chopsticks. "It's no use thinking about it now, so let's just continue living here." Chen Tao thought that with the Dragon Man here, the people from the Kurt galaxy wouldn't be able to make any big waves. But everything that happened later was completely beyond Chen Tao's expectations. Half a month later, Chen Tao was sitting on the deck reading a book. Suddenly, Chen Tao noticed the light of fire, and he looked up. A ball of fire wrapped in flames fell from the sky. Entering the air, the flames of the fireball disappeared. Chen Tao saw a pair of familiar wings. Is it a dragon man? Unlike the last time Chen Tao saw a dragon man, this time the dragon man had his eyes closed, his body bent, and looked like he had lost consciousness. Bang, the dragon man fell to the ground, and the ground shook and sank. A micro wormhole appeared, and Chen Tao walked out of it. He looked at the dragon man lying on the ground, and he slowly squatted down and took a closer look. He found that the dragon man lying on the ground was the female dragon man, Lin, whom Chen Tao had seen last time. My time is running out. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 92. What's going on? Looking at Lin lying on the ground in front of her, Chen Tao frowned and looked at Lin. Looking at it this way, Chen Tao noticed that there was a gap in the soft armor on Lin's belly, and the soft armor was dyed red with blood. Injured. Dragons can also get hurt. Lin, Chen Tao touched Lin's cheek with his hand. Lin's eyelashes fluttered, and she slowly opened her clear eyes. She turned her face slightly and looked at Chen Tao. Meet Chen Tao's gaze. Lin said, "It's you." Chen Tao said, "It's me, what's wrong with you?" Lin bit her lower lip and said, "It's the Black Demon." Black Demon, this is a word that Chen Tao doesn't know. Lin said, "The duty of the dragon people is to maintain the balance law of the universe. What the Black Demons want is to make the universe chaotic and orderless. They like a chaotic world without order. This time, the black demons have joined forces with the Kurt galaxy to join us. There was a big war between the dragons. Speaking of this, Lin covered her belly with her hands. She struggled to get up, but fell down as soon as she stood up. Chen Tao stretched out his hand and caught it. Lin raised her face and looked at Chen Tao. There was a hint of luster in her eyes. I must regain my strength, but now the genetic energy in my body is used to repair the wound. Now I have no strength. She looked at Chen Tao and said, "Can you help me?" Hearing this, Chen Tao said, "How can I help?" A blush appeared on Lin's face, and she said, "The only way now is to transfer your genetic energy into my body." At this point, she seemed a little embarrassed and turned her face away, not daring to look. Chen Tao. Seeing her blushing, Chen Tao still didn't know what to do. But looking at Lin, she didn't seem to want to say anything more. Chen Tao asked in his heart, "Xingyun, how can I help her? What you have in your body is the second-generation nebula gene. As long as you use human reproduction to transfer the gene into her body, you can provide her with new genetic energy, and she can quickly regain her strength." Nebula made it clear. Now Chen Tao finally understood. No wonder Lin blushed. Look at Lin blushing. Chen Tao said, "Is there no other way?" Lin closed her eyes, nodded slightly, and said, "Yes, I just need to wait for my gene energy to repair the wound, and then wait for my gene energy to slowly recover. It just takes a little longer. Based on my current physical damage estimates, it will probably take a while. It will take more than 100 years to be restored." She was eager to regain her strength, but now she was asked to wait here for more than 100 years. So even if the strength is restored, what's the point? Chen Tao said, "For that kind of thing, I can't do it just to cure you. I don't want to be that kind of person." Lin raised her face, looked at Chen Tao, and said, "Then, let me be your woman, is that okay?" She blushed. Chen Tao was startled. Lin said, "As long as our body is given to someone by the dragon people, then everything belongs to that person. I have chosen you now. If it is you, I can do it." Chen Tao looked at Lin's red face and said, "We have only met twice now. Isn't it too hasty for you to choose me like this?" Lin looked at Chen Tao and said, "There is an academy over there with us dragons, which records information on all advanced intelligent creatures in the entire universe. Last time, I have been paying attention to you since I saw you. I have seen everything about you in the academy. I feel that you are very special and suitable for me." Chen Tao was slightly startled. "Is this okay?" Lin took the initiative to move her face closer to Chen Tao. Chen Tao felt his lips heat up. "Look at the face so close in front of you." Chen Tao only felt the tip of his heart heating up. Lin pursed her lower lip, showing a charming smile, and looked at Chen Tao with big eyes, full of expectation. Chen Tao adjusted his mood. Time stops passing. The surroundings become code patterns. But, Chen Tao discovered that Lin in his arms had not turned into code. This scene was beyond Chen Tao's expectation. Lin felt the changes around her. She looked at the blue codes around her. There was a hint of surprise in her eyes. After regaining a little strength, she struggled to stand up, covering her lower abdomen with her hands. She looked around and said, "Is this the other world?" Lin looked at Chen Tao and said, "Can you open the other world?" She looked a little surprised. Chen Tao looked at Lin, "Well, what's wrong?" Lin said, "No, this is impossible. As far as I know, in this world, only the Dragon King's Academy owned by me, the Dragon Man, and the World Tree owned by the Black Demon King can open the other world. Come. You, how could you do it?" Lin looked at Chen Tao with disbelief in her eyes. Looking at Lin's surprised expression. "Isn't this the ability of genes? Could it be said that none of the dragon people have this kind of genetic power? Can we only use all the Dragon King's academies?" In other words, the second-generation Nebula gene upgraded by Nebula to Chen Tao is stronger than the second-generation warrior gene of the Dragon Man. Chen Tao said, "This is not important. What is important is that I can cure you by using this other world." Lin was slightly startled. She looked at Chen Tao and shook her head. "Every substance has an outer world and an inner world. But if you want to analyze a thing to get the appearance of the inner world, your genetic strength must be higher than the other person's. You are a second-generation gene, and so am I. Although I can't use the other world, you can't analyze me either. If you can't analyze me, then you can't program me, and you can't cure me." Indeed, when entering the inner world, Lin was still able to move, which means that Chen Tao did not enter Lin's inner world and could not analyze her. Chen Tao said to Xingyun, "In addition to the methods mentioned before, do you have any other ways to cure this woman? I can reprogram her and restore the damaged genes to intact ones, so I can cure her." Xingyun's mechanical voice sounded in Chen Tao's mind. So simple? Chen Tao thought about it and he understood. Chen Tao's genetic ability really couldn't analyze Lin, but for Xingyun, there was probably nothing in this world that she couldn't analyze. Chen Tao was too lazy to think about it and said directly, "Then help me cure her." The Dragon People force where Lin was located could restrict the invaders from the Kurt galaxy from entering the Earth. In any case, she couldn't die, and she couldn't wait 100 years to recover her combat effectiveness. It was imperative to cure her. "Received the order, start clearing the damaged genes," Xingyun's voice sounded. When the mechanical voice of Nebula sounded in Chen Tao's ears, Chen Tao saw that Lin's body turned into blue code. Eliminating. The blue code on Lin's belly disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. Eliminating. Rewriting genes, writing. Completed. Time resumed flowing. Chen Tao looked at Lin, and Lin touched her lower abdomen. She looked down and saw that there was no blood or gaps on the soft armor. This lower abdomen was just like the first time Chen Tao saw Lin, clean and intact. Lin looked at Chen Tao with trembling eyes, her face full of disbelief. "You just analyzed me." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My time is running out. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 93. As far as I know, the inner world opened by the second-generation gene can only analyze the existence under the second-generation gene. Lin looked at Chen Tao solemnly and said, "What did you do? This matter is not a trivial matter." Chen Tao said, "As you can see, I cured you." Lin said, "Incredible, if the inner world you opened can analyze me, it means that you have the ability to instantly destroy the second-generation warriors. This is a terrifying ability. I can't imagine, a pre-nuclear civilization cannot have such technology as you. If I hadn't read your information and experience in the academy before, I guess I really suspected that you were from another galaxy." As she said, Lin looked at Chen Tao, and she said, "The battle between our dragon people and the black demon is going on. If you can help us, the ability of your world can provide us with great help, okay?" Chen Tao doesn't like to participate in wars. But looking at the charming and exotic woman in front of him, listening to the invitation from her small cherry lips, then thinking about the current battle of the dragon people, it was launched to protect the Earth. For a moment, Chen Tao didn't know how to refuse. After all, the Dragon Man is not the Black Swan or the Heaven Punishment Alliance. The Black Swan and the Heaven Punishment Alliance are both enemies to Chen Tao. It is effortless for him to refuse the invitation of the enemy. But the Dragon Man is fighting to protect the Earth, her invitation. It is really hard to refuse. In fact, Chen Tao has a great interest in civilizations from outer space. With this interest, Chen Tao actually wants to see what the war of alien civilizations looks like. Seeing that Chen Tao did not answer, he could see Chen Tao's hesitation. Lin took Chen Tao's hand. Lin spread her wings and pulled Chen Tao into the sky. A gust of wind came towards him. The ring on Chen Tao's finger turned into white light, condensed behind him, and turned into a pair of wings. When Lin saw it, she showed a playful smile and let go of Chen Tao's hand. She spread her wings, increased the speed of flight, and quickly flew into the sky. Seeing that Lin was flying farther and farther, Chen Tao flapped his wings and increased his speed to catch up with Lin. Lin looked back at Chen Tao, she smiled and continued to fly upwards. Chen Tao followed. The blue daylight above became dark as time went by, and stars could be seen in the distance. What is this? Chen Tao looked down and found that he could see the arc of the earth under his feet. Unknowingly, he had flown out of the atmosphere. There should be no oxygen outside the atmosphere, but Chen Tao did not feel the lack of oxygen. Outer space is a very scary place for ordinary people. There is no oxygen, and the environment is not suitable for the human body. Without any protective measures, entering outer space is a sure death. But Chen Tao can be sure that he has left the atmosphere of the earth and entered outer space, but he did not feel any discomfort. Chen Tao did not think much for the time being, because he found that Lin had stopped. Chen Tao flew to Lin and stopped. Chen Tao's sight followed Lin's sight and looked forward. He found that a battle was going on over there. 6 dragon people who looked like Lin were fighting with 20 enemies. Lin looked at Chen Tao and said, "I'm going to join the battlefield. You protect yourself." Chen Tao nodded slightly. Lin spread her wings, entered the battlefield, and pounced on one of the enemies. Chen Tao's eyes fell on the front. This battle actually took place near the Earth Star, no wonder Lin was blasted into the Earth Star. Chen Tao's eyes fell on the enemies who looked completely different from the dragon people. Chen Tao saw a female black demon. The skin of this female black demon was light gray, and the light gray was tinged with blue. She was tall but thin, with a pair of pointed ears and a pair of black pupils. The weapons in their hands were not hot weapons like Chen Tao's. They held black spear-like weapons. Just like the silver longsword in the hands of the dragon people. Their battles were mainly close combat. It was obviously a civilization with higher technology, but they used close combat weapons in battle. This surprised Chen Tao a little. Chen Tao noticed that there were few dragon people, and they were all female. It was very difficult for 6 people to fight against 20 black demons. When Lin entered the battlefield, Chen Tao found that the soft armor on the other 5 people was already in tatters, and they were exhausted. Puff! Suddenly, a spear sank into the shoulder of one of the female dragon people. The female dragon person groaned, raised her foot, and kicked the black demon in the stomach. Bang! The black demon was kicked away, and the spear was pulled out. The female dragon person's shoulder was overflowing with bright red blood, and she frowned. Seeing this, Chen Tao's eyebrows slightly opened. The genes in the female dragon people should belong to the 2nd generation genes like Chen Tao. It stands to reason that ordinary weapons can never hurt their bodies. But now when this spear pierces, it is as easy as piercing into the body of an ordinary person. In this way, Chen Tao understood a little bit. This spear is a high-tech weapon used to target the 2nd generation genes. Seeing this, the other female dragons rushed over and protected the injured female dragon behind them. "Qin, are you okay?" The injured female dragon nodded slightly and said, "I'm fine." At this time, 20 black demons surrounded the 6 female dragons in the middle. There seems to be a leader among these 20 black demons. The female black demon leader looked at the 6 female dragons and said lightly, "You have already lost, surrender." "Surrender," Lin said lightly, "there is no word surrender in our dragon knowledge base. If you want to fight, then fight." The female black demon leader narrowed her eyes and said, "Since you are looking for death, don't blame us. Go." 20 black demons holding spears rushed towards the group of female dragons. The faces of the female dragons were full of solemnity and seriousness. Stop. Suddenly, a voice sounded. Hearing this voice, the black demon stopped moving. Everyone looked at the source of the sound. They saw that it was Chen Tao. Sound cannot be transmitted in outer space. The reason why Chen Tao made a sound and they could hear it? Because when the black demon and the dragon fought, the conversation between the two was used in a public gene channel. If you want to enter this public channel, you can enter it at will. There is no channel number and no obstacles. You can step into this public gene channel. Naturally, after Chen Tao edited the translator for himself, he could speak in this public channel. The communication on the gene channel does not need to be transmitted through the air. With the help of the translator, Chen Tao can understand what they say, and they can understand what Chen Tao says. The leader of the black demon stared at Chen Tao and said, "A person from Earth with the second generation gene? Is it the gene upgraded by the dragon man?" Chen Tao looked at the leader of the black demon and said, "This question is not important. The important thing is that you should stop fighting in front of the gate of Earth where I am, and not asking what I, the master, mean, is too ridiculous." When the leader of the black demon heard this, she squinted her eyes, stared at Chen Tao, and said, "It's really interesting. A person from a pre-nuclear civilization dares to talk to us black demons like this. Aren't you afraid of death?" My time is running out. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 94. Chen Tao looked at the female black demon who was speaking. She was probably the leader of this team. This female black demon is tall, only 1.75 meters tall. Her slender and straight legs are estimated to be 1.2 meters tall. Her skin is light gray with a hint of blue, and her skin is smooth and delicate. Seeing this female black demon, Chen Tao seemed to understand what someone said before: beauty has little to do with skin color indeed. Although this female black demon has a different skin color from humans, she also has pointed ears. But her charm is very strong. This woman is a beautiful woman with exotic charm. This is the female black demon. The leader of the black demon said, "If you don't want to die, you'd better get back to the Earth Star as soon as possible." Chen Tao said, "There are too many people who want to kill me during this period, but no one who can kill me has yet appeared." He crossed his arms across his chest and looked at the leader of the black demon. "Lin, did you bring this person here?" Yeah, Lin nodded slightly. "What a arrogant Earth Star person. It's interesting." When Lin heard this, she glanced at the female dragon who was speaking and said, "Chiao, this is what I like, don't snatch it." Chiao looked at Lin, and she smiled, "Oh, you have been single for 600 years, and you are finally tempted today." Lin rolled her eyes at Chiao and looked away. She looked at Chen Tao. The leader of the black demon frowned, flapped the pair of black wings behind him, and pounced towards Chen Tao. Extremely fast. As soon as he got close, the leader of the black demon thrust the spear in his hand into Chen Tao's chest and said, "Die, you stupid and ignorant Earth Star man." Chen Tao said, "Xingyun, enter the other world." Time pauses. Everything around him, including the planet, turned into blue code. The leader of the black demon who flew towards him also turned into blue code mode at this moment. Chen Tao looked at the black demon leader who turned into a blue code, and said, "Xingyun, is there any way to deal with her? I can directly analyze and erase the other party." Chen Tao crossed his chest with his hands and shook his head. "This plan doesn't work." Although Lin said that the black demon wants the world to be chaotic, for Chen Tao is just an ordinary person. He cannot judge a person's life or death from the height of the universe. Moreover, the black demon's target is the dragon man. For Chen Tao, she has almost nothing to do with Chen Tao. It is not in line with Chen Tao's character to randomly take the life of a person who has almost nothing to do with him. The opponent is the owner of the second generation gene, and the weapon he is holding is a combat weapon composed of Z2 material that can destroy the second generation gene. I can upgrade your gene to the third generation gene. The third generation gene is not afraid of Z2 combat weapons made of matter. Third generation genes. This seemed good, he said. How long does it take to upgrade? Half an hour too long. Although time does not flow in this world, for Chen Tao, he still felt that he had to wait for half an hour. Too long. Chen Tao said, is there any more? There is another way. There are various weapons and props in my knowledge base. I have the sharpest weapon in the universe made of sharp silver material, which can easily cut the body made of second-generation genes into pieces. Is it so powerful? Unfortunately, Chen Tao doesn't want to kill for the time being. In my knowledge base, there are also records of the toughest rope made of tough silver, the toughest material in the known universe, which can be used to restrict the opponent's actions. Chen Tao said, the rope, if it can't subdue her, what's the use of it? Of course ropes can tie people, but the question is how can they tie people? You can't just let the other party cooperate in the binding, right? Tough silver can be loaded into a program and controlled by genes. The rope made of tough silver, we call it the silver binding rope, can be controlled through mental power. To put it simply, the silver binding rope can bind people by itself. Kidnapping someone yourself? Chen Tao's eyes lit up and he said, write a silver rope for me. Receive instructions and start writing. Preparing. Under Chen Tao's gaze, a blue code appeared out of thin air in front of him. The code was increasing and it didn't take long. The shape of the code becomes the shape of a rope. Completed. The rope changes from the state in the inner world to the state in the outer world, revealing the true appearance of the rope. It was a silver rope, silvery white in color. It is made of an unknown metal and has a metallic texture. Nebula said that this thing can be controlled by mental power. Chen Tao had an idea. The silver rope broke away from Chen Tao's hand and flew upward like a snake, spinning. It rotates with Chen Tao's thoughts. Seeing this, Chen Tao's eyebrows stretched slightly. This is the silver rope. Interesting. This silver rope gave Chen Tao the same feeling as his own hands and feet. It could go wherever he wanted it to go. Sure enough, it can be controlled at will. Chen Tao's eyes fell on the black demon leader who still looked like a blue code in front of him. Nebula, let time resume. As soon as the words fell, time resumed its flow. The figure of the black demon leader swooped over, and the spear in her hand was about to pierce Chen Tao's body. Suddenly, a silver light flew over. It was a silver rope. The rope trapped the black demon leader's hand holding the spear, and then trapped her whole body. All of a sudden, the leader of the black demons was tied up by the rope, unable to move in this weightless outer space. She wanted to struggle, but she couldn't. She looked at Chen Tao with doubt in her eyes. What is this? Let me go, let me go. The more she struggled, the tighter the rope was. Seeing this, the other black demons gave up surrounding the dragon man and rushed towards Chen Tao. The rope suddenly grew longer, and one after another, all the black demons who rushed towards Chen Tao were trapped together. In an instant, all 20 black demons were tied up by ropes and couldn't move. They were struggling, but the more they struggled, the tighter the ropes became. It hurts, stop struggling. The skin of the black demon leader was squeezed so hard that blue blood overflowed. She couldn't bear it, so she gave a command. Now the black demons were all obedient. The leader of the black demons looked at Chen Tao and said, "Who are you? What is this?" Chen Tao crossed his arms, looked at the leader of the black demons, and said, "It's not important. What's important is that you are my captives now." He looked at the leader of the black demons and said, "How should I deal with you? What's your name?" The leader of the black demons looked at Chen Tao and said, "I am Leah, a warrior of my king Ona." "Oh, Leah, right." Chen Tao looked at the female black demon. The black demons represent the chaos of the universe. These black demons deserve to die. Chen Tao, kill them all. Lin came over with the dragon people. Hearing this, Chen Tao shook his head. Lin was startled. She looked at Chen Tao, don't kill. My time is running out. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 95. Chen Tao said, I won't kill them. I'll keep them and let them work for me. He looked at Lin. Lin blinked her beautiful eyes, smiled, and said, let them work for you. Dream on, Leah said, we are noble black demons. We obey our queen and obey chaos. If you want us to work for Earth, dream on. Lin crossed her arms, looked at Chen Tao, and said with a smile, see. Chen Tao looked at Leah, and said, a living thing is actually a program, and the brain is just a database for storing memories. Under normal circumstances, the database cannot be tampered with, but there are exceptions. He looked at Leah and said, and I happen to have the ability to tamper with your database. Leah's pupils condensed slightly, and she said, what are you talking about? Time stopped. Everything around turned into blue code. Chen Tao looked at the 20 black demon members who had turned into blue code in front of him, and said, Nebula, rewrite the database of these 20 black demons, and write their king into me. According to the thinking of a normal person, it can be judged that this approach is wrong. But their memories were changed, and their lives could be saved. At the same time, Chen Tao could get knowledge about the universe through Leah. Chen Tao has lived on Earth all his life, and he knows nothing about the universe, just like a frog in a well. Now seeing people from other civilizations approaching Earth, Chen Tao began to be very curious about the universe. He wanted to know what else was outside Earth. Chen Tao saved Leah and her lives, and also met Chen Tao's needs. Although the approach was wrong, it was very valuable for the current situation. Received the instruction to start modifying the data in the Black Demons database. Modifying. Modification completed. Time resumed. Chen Tao looked at Leah in front of him, and Leah's eyes had a hint of doubt, and she looked at the silver rope on her body. Seeing this, Chen Tao moved his mind, and the silver rope flew up. A micro wormhole emerged, and the silver rope entered the micro wormhole and disappeared. Leah resumed her actions, and she slowly got up. The dragons looked at it, their eyes narrowed slightly, and they quickly grasped the silver swords in their hands and stared at Leah and the others. Only Lin did not hold a weapon, but she looked at Chen Tao with a hint of doubt. At this time, Leah suddenly knelt on one knee in front of Chen Tao, put her hand on her heart, lowered her head slightly, and said, King. The other black demons also knelt on one knee in front of Chen Tao. Seeing the scene in front of them, the dragon's eyes widened. What's going on? What's the situation? Aren't the black demons only loyal to the Black Demon King? What's the situation? The dragons' faces were full of surprise and confusion. Lin looked at Chen Tao, her eyes glowing with a hint of light, and there was a hint of disbelief. Chen Tao looked at Leah and said, Get up. Leah stood up. Chen Tao looked at the tall, gray-skinned woman in front of him, then he looked away and looked at Lin, saying, Now they can work for me. Lin entered Chen Tao's personal channel, and she said through her personal channel, tampering with the database requires support far stronger than the second-order gene. As far as I know, in this universe, only by using the Dragon King's Academy or the power of the World Tree can this be achieved. What did you use the power of? Dragon King's Academy and World Tree? Chen Tao's heart moved. Chen Tao has always heard Lin mention these two things. What are those two things? Something with the same function as the nebula. Does it mean that it is also a huge celestial computer like the nebula? Just a different name? Chen Tao said, Are the Dragon King's Academy and World Tree you mentioned a kind of huge celestial computer? Yes, from a certain perspective, both of them are computers, which are currently recognized as the most powerful celestial computers in the universe. The Dragon King's Academy is owned by the Dragon King, and the World Tree is owned by the Black Demon King, Lin explained. As expected. Chen Tao said, well, now that things here are settled, what are your plans for the future? Lin looked at Chen Tao, she smiled and said, what plans can I have? Of course, I will fulfill the obligations of a female dragon and live on this planet as your partner. Lin's words were spoken on the public channel. Everyone present could hear it. Hearing this voice, the female dragons next to her couldn't help but look at Lin. There was surprise in the eyes of those female dragons. Lin, no. So hungry. This, even if you have been single for 600 years, you don't have to be so anxious, right? Hearing the complaints of her companions next to her, Lin rolled her eyes at them. She looked at Chen Tao and said, although you didn't save me in that way, the dragon man will not change what he said. I said it was you, and that's you. She smiled, so, I have to fulfill the obligations of a female dragon man, stay with my partner, and live together. Chen Tao subconsciously touched the back of his head and said, I have a lover. Lin smiled casually and said, it's okay, I don't care about this. Chen Tao looked at Lin, and Lin had a charming smile on her face. Chen Tao breathed a sigh of relief and said, it's up to you, I'll go back first. He spread his wings and flew down to Earth Star. Leah and the 19 black demons flapped their black wings together and followed Chen Tao down. Lin looked at Chen Tao's leaving figure, she turned around and looked at the injured Qin, she said, report what happened here to my queen, Chen Tao is likely to be hope. The other female dragons were stunned at the same time, they looked at each other, and then looked at Lin. Lin spread her wings and flew down with Chen Tao. Looking at this, the dragon Qin frowned. Do you think what Lin said is true? Is that man from Earth Star really hope? It's impossible to be sure, but Lin is now the oldest one among the front-line dragons, and her judgment is very valuable for reference. I think we should go back quickly and leave this matter to the queen to decide. The female dragons flapped their wings and disappeared in this vast universe. The wind came towards them. Huh! Chen Tao's clothes burst into flames, and he looked at the flames on his clothes. Chen Tao looked back and found that flames were also coming out of Leah's body, but she didn't care. Leah's clothes seemed to be made of special materials, and the flames couldn't burn her clothes at all. But the problem was that Chen Tao's clothes were decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye in the flames. Although Chen Tao's body was the second generation of nebula genes that could withstand high temperatures, his clothes couldn't. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My time is running out. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 96. The wind is coming. Chen Tao's thoughts were spinning, but the clothes on his body were burned clean within a few seconds after the burning started. There is no other way. Chen Tao had no choice but to edit a piece of fireproof clothing, cover it on his body, and perform the drama of changing clothes while falling rapidly. From the outside, the clothes Chen Tao put on were just the most ordinary white shirt and black jeans, but in fact the material of the clothes was edited and did not belong to this world. The flames were still burning, but at this moment the flames could no longer burn Chen Tao's clothes. Just ahead is Base 1. Base 1's protective shield temporarily disappeared. Chen Tao entered the protective cover, his figure fell on the deck, his wings turned into light, condensed on his finger and turned into a ring. Chen Tao raised his face and looked upward. The 20 black demons above landed in front of Chen Tao one after another, standing side by side. The one standing in the front was naturally Leia. At this time, Chen Tao saw another figure flying in from outside the protective cover and landing on the deck. She slowly folded her wings and looked at Chen Tao. When she met Chen Tao's gaze, she smiled and looked around. Dear, suddenly, Chen Tao heard a voice. Chen Tao looked over and saw Zi Ching walking this way. She looked at the black demons and Lin in confusion. She came to Chen Tao, looked at Chen Tao and said, "Dear, who are they?" Chen Tao gently put his arm around Zi Qing's waist and said, "They are friends from foreign civilizations." "You must be Chen Tao's lover." Lin took the initiative. She looked at Zi Qing and said with a smile, "I am a dragon from the Dragon Galaxy. My name is Lin." Zi Qing nodded slightly and said, "Hello." She looked at Leah next to her. Leah looked at Zi Qing and said, "Hello, madam." Chen Tao said, "This is Leia, she is also from outer space, she is our subordinate." "Well." Zi Qing looked at Chen Tao and said, "Lunch is ready. Do you want to eat?" Chen Tao was slightly startled. Seeing these strange people, she was confused for a moment. Now after hearing Chen Tao's introduction, her first reaction was to ask Chen Tao to eat. Isn't she afraid? Looking at Zi Qing's big questioning eyes, Chen Tao understood. It's not that she's not afraid, it's just that because Chen Tao is here, she feels very safe. Since Chen Tao is here, in Zi Qing's opinion, nothing will happen here. Since there is nothing wrong, 3 meals a day are the biggest thing. Chen Tao couldn't help but smile, raised his hand, gently stroked Zi Qing's hair, and said softly, "You go and eat first, I'm not that hungry. And I still have things to do." "Oh." Zi Qing responded, and she said, "Then remember to eat after you are busy, your health is more important." Chen Tao held Zi Qing's face, leaned close to her face, and kissed her parted lips. Looking at Zi Qing's flushed face, Chen Tao smiled and said, "Be good, go ahead." Zi Qing's eyes glowed with a hint of luster. She hummed and walked away. Looking at Zi Qing's back, Lin looked at Zi Qing and said, "I can feel the information fluctuations of her second-generation genes, but she doesn't seem to have fighting ability. Didn't you teach her how to fight?" Chen Tao said, "I can protect her, she doesn't need to fight." Lin was slightly startled. She looked at Chen Tao, smiled, and said, "Although I deny your behavior of wanting to protect others, according to your words, it is better to teach a man to fish than to teach him to fish. Teach her some fighting skills, allow her to defend herself, which can better ensure her safety." "Leave this matter to me," Lin suddenly said, "anyway, this period of time is idle." Chen Tao looked at Lin, who was silent for a moment. On this point, what Lin said is indeed correct. The reason why Chen Tao upgraded Zi Qing's genes before was because Zi Qing had a genetic defect and had to help her upgrade her genes, but Chen Tao had no intention of teaching Zi Qing to use her genetic abilities to fight. But as Ru Lin said, it would be a good thing if Zi Qing had some ability to protect herself. Seeing Lin volunteering to teach Zi Qing, Chen Tao nodded silently and said, "Okay, tomorrow. I'll ask her what she means tonight." Lin nodded slightly. She looked around, looked at the battleship, and said, "This base battleship is not something that your civilization can build." Chen Tao was silent for a moment. It was better to keep Xingyun's matter a secret and not tell her. Chen Tao looked at Leia and said, "Come with me, I have something to ask you." Leia nodded slightly and said, "Okay, my king." Chen Tao left with Leia. Lin on the side immediately followed Chen Tao. Enter the interior of the battleship through the elevator. Chen Tao went into his room minding his own business. The room was spacious, half the size of a basketball court. There are beds, sofas, and tables. Chen Tao sat on the sofa minding his own business, looked at Leia, and said, "Sit." Leia sat down on the sofa and looked at Chen Tao. Chen Tao said, "Do you still remember when you were working for the Black Demon King?" Upon hearing this, Leia's face suddenly became a little panicked. She quickly stood up, lowered her head slightly, and said, "King, Leia is stupid and was deceived by that bitch Rose, so she will sacrifice her life for her. If Leia knows that you are the real king as soon as possible, I will never obey her." But this is all because of Leah's stupidity. Please punish me. Her face was filled with nervousness. Chen Tao didn't know what modifications Nebula had made to Leah's memory, but now it seemed that the effect of the modifications was pretty good. Chen Tao said, "Sit down." Leah was slightly startled, and she looked at Chen Tao. Leah slowly sat down and looked at Chen Tao with big eyes. Chen Tao said, "I didn't call you in to punish you. I called you over because I wanted to ask you something." When Leah heard this, she hurriedly said, "King, please ask whatever you want. As long as Leah knows, Leah will tell you everything." Hearing this, Chen Tao said, "Did the Black Demon cooperate with the people from the Kurt Galaxy?" Leah nodded slightly and said, "This is an order given by Rose. We will all abide by Rose's order. According to Rose's order, we must restore this world to its original chaotic freedom." "Why? Why do you worship chaos?" Chen Tao looked at Leah and said, "Is that what you black demons want? Or is it Rose's order?" Leah said, "That's what Rose said." Rose used the world tree as a deduction. The deduction said that the universe is expanding. If the order of the universe cannot be restored to the previous chaos, the universe will continue to expand. If this continues, in the distant future, the entire universe will explode, and all life in the universe will be destroyed. Only when the universe loses order and returns to its previous state of chaos will the universe stop expanding. This is what Rose told us. We must regard chaos as our faith and spread chaos. For this reason, the dragon people who believe in order and balance are the biggest stumbling block for our black demons and must be destroyed. My time is running out. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 97. Nonsense, Lin on the side frowned. She couldn't listen anymore and said, "The expansion of the universe is a natural occurrence and has nothing to do with balance and order. Rose blindly created the theory of chaos, thinking that chaos can be curing the expansion of the universe is simply stupid and ignorant." Leah didn't speak, she looked at Chen Tao. After all, it was not Rose that Leah respected now, but Chen Tao. Leah had no feelings at all about Lin's abuse of Rose. Chen Tao looked at Leah and said, "What is the Black Demon's action plan this time? How do they plan to destroy the Dragon Man?" Leah said, "Cuddy, the Dragon King, has the third-generation warrior gene and is difficult to kill. Our king plans to use the power of the world tree to analyze Cuddy, break it down into molecules, and scatter them in every corner of the universe." Leah said, "According to the planned time, if there are no accidents, Katie has now been broken down into molecules." "What did you say?" When Lin heard this, her expression suddenly changed. She frowned, put her hands to her ears, and closed her eyes. Chen Tao looked at Lin's actions. Although Lin didn't speak or do anything, Chen Tao, who understood genetic abilities, could guess what Lin was doing now. Lin should be connecting to the Dragon King's channel and planning to talk to the Dragon King. Chen Tao withdrew his gaze. "Asshole," Lin hit the wall with her hand, and the wall made a muffled sound. Lin looked at Chen Tao and said, "My dear, my king needs me and I have to go." Hearing this, Chen Tao nodded slightly and said, "If you need anything, please contact me." "Okay," Lin left in a hurry. Chen Tao looked at Lin's hurried back, and his eyes fell on Leah again. He looked closely at Leah. This woman was wearing close-fitting gray soft armor, which fit her slender figure. Her waist was slender and her upper circumference was not exaggerated, but it was pretty. What caught Chen Tao's attention the most was the woman's long legs, which were about 1 meter long. Her skin is light gray with a hint of blue. She had long pointed ears and long ink-like hair, which was tied up to expose her slender neck. Her facial features are exquisite and her skin is delicate and smooth. She can be regarded as an exotic beauty. Chen Tao looked at her and said, "How much do you know about the Kot people?" Leah said, "The Kot galaxy can now be regarded as a space-grade civilization. They are very violent and like to plunder the resources of other planets. For this reason, the Kot galaxy has destroyed more than a dozen civilizations. Leah said, recently, the Kot galaxy plans to invade the Earth star and rob the Earth star of its resources. Compared to the Black Demon, how about those people in the Kurt galaxy? No, although the Kot galaxy has preliminary researched the genes of the second-generation warriors, they do not have weapons that can effectively attack the genes of the second-generation warriors. Leia looked at Chen Tao and said, they don't know how to use Z2 matter yet. The Black Demon and the Dragon Man have not only mastered the use of Z2 substance, they have even mastered the use of sharp silver. To us, the warriors of the Kurt galaxy are simply vulnerable. They have no means of harming us, but we can take their lives at will. That's right. Leia seemed to have remembered something. She looked at Chen Tao and said, as for the means, they do have one, and that is nuclear weapons. Only nuclear bomb-level weapons can have an effect on the genes of the second-generation warriors. Effect. However, the purpose of their coming to Earth is to plunder resources. It is impossible for them to use nuclear weapons on Earth, as that would be too destructive. Chen Tao nodded slightly and said, I understand, so let's do it. No one. A miniature wormhole appeared around Chen Tao. Number 1 walked out of the micro wormhole, saluted Chen Tao, and said, Master. Chen Tao said, arrange a room for Leia and her men, and they will be your comrades in arms from now on. Hearing this, Number 1 nodded, looked at Leia, and said with a smile, Miss Leia, please come with me. Leia nodded slightly and said, my people are still on the deck. Okay, I understand, came the gentle voice of Number 1. Chen Tao leaned on the back of the sofa, turned his face sideways, and looked at the scenery outside through the floor-to-ceiling windows. It's not over yet. Although Chen Tao rescued 6 dragon people from the Black Demon, in fact the Black Demon also attacked the dragon people in another place. And the king of the dragon people is very likely to have something happen to him. The Dragonites now have to deal with their enemy, the Black Demon. Then there will be no one to deal with the Kot aliens. In other words, it is very likely that the Kots will attack Chen Tao next. What to do? Chen Tao thought for a moment and asked, Xingyun, can the weapons equipped by those combat robots cause harm to the genes of second-generation warriors? Yes, 1/3 of the weapons equipped by combat robots are designed to destroy the genes of second-generation warriors. Nebula's voice came. Hearing this voice, Chen Tao felt much better. He found that his worries were somewhat unnecessary. It turned out that there was a group of robots in his formation that were specially designed to deal with the genes of second-generation warriors. Dong dong. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Chen Tao came back to his senses, looked at the door, and said, come in. Creak. The door opened, and a beautiful figure walked in from the door. Chen Tao took a closer look and found that the visitor was He Yuxuan. This little goblin was wearing a black shirt and a black fishnet suit underneath. Those long legs, which are about 1 meter long, are slender, straight, and flawlessly beautiful, paired with those fishnet stockings. This view is simply life-killing. Her hair was tied into a single ponytail, exposing her white neck. When she came in, she saw Chen Tao with playful eyes. She walked over and sat down in Chen Tao's arms. As soon as she got close, Chen Tao could smell the fragrance coming from her body. Chen Tao looked at her and said, what's wrong? When He Yuxuan heard this, she smiled, leaned down and kissed Chen Tao. Parted lips. He Yuxuan looked at Chen Tao and said with a playful smile, I see you just brought a very special-looking beauty into the room. I thought you were planning to add sisters to us. Chen Tao's eyebrows relaxed slightly and he stood up slightly. Seeing Chen Tao getting up, He Yuxuan could only get down from Chen Tao's arms. Chen Tao said, it's almost time, it's time to have lunch. Have you eaten? When He Yuxuan heard this, she shook her head and said with a smile, if you don't come, I won't be able to eat. She held Chen Tao's hand. Chen Tao smiled and said, how did the once arrogant clothing store owner become like a little girl? He Yuxuan was startled. She looked at Chen Tao playfully, smiled, and said, you can make me arrogant, but I think the little girl's personality should make you like her more. Chen Tao smiled and said nothing. The two left together. No matter what happens outside or how noisy it is better to be warm at home. This is the kind of warmth that Chen Tao likes. Chen Tao sat at the dining table, holding bowls and chopsticks, eating lunch. Halfway through, Master, he suddenly heard Lin Na's voice. Chen Tao said, what's wrong? Lin Na's voice was a little more nervous as she said, can you see the sky? Sky? Chen Tao said, I am eating now, what happened? Other side. Lin Na stood on the balcony, looking at the sky. In the sky, huge battleships slowly appeared in mid-air one after another. My time is running out. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 98. Lin Na saw Chen Tao's base warships, and the warships in front of her were obviously completely different from Chen Tao's. This is obviously not Chen Tao's thing, so there is only one possibility for the owner of this thing. Those are alien invaders. Suddenly, a terrifying crimson light projected down from the largest battleship in the middle and landed in the city. Boom! A deafening muffled sound resounded through the sky. The high-rise buildings in the city were instantly reduced to ashes under the bombardment of red light. Dust is flying and fog is filling the air. Lin Na's eyes trembled slightly, and she said on the channel, the intruder is coming. Chen Tao paused slightly while eating. He frowned slightly, so fast? Chen Tao put down his bowl and chopsticks and stood up slightly. Seeing Chen Tao stand up, Zicheng said, dear. Hearing this, Chen Tao said, I'm going out to handle something. Zicheng looked at Chen Tao and said, yeah. Chen Tao raised his hand, and there was a miniature wormhole in front of him. He stepped into the miniature wormhole. When he appeared again, he appeared next to Lin Na. His eyes fell on Lin Na, and when he saw it, Chen Tao was slightly startled. Lin Na was wrapped in a bath towel, probably just after taking a shower. The hem of the bath towel is very short, and those beautiful legs are still slender even if they are not wearing high-heeled boots. Lin Na noticed Chen Tao appearing beside her. She was startled at first, then her face turned slightly red and she said, Master. Chen Tao nodded slightly and looked in the direction Lin Na was looking. There is a ruins ahead, a hole is sunk in the ground, the tall buildings next to it no longer exist, and the flames are burning. Chen Tao raised his face, looked up, and saw a huge group of battleships suspended in mid-air. Suddenly, Chen Tao saw a group of people jumping down from the battleship group. Bang bang bang. With a muffled sound, those people fell into the ruins. Because the height was too high, the impact was huge. When it landed, there was a wave of air and dust flying. The dust dissipates. Someone can get up slowly. These are the people of Kot. They are both 2 meters tall. The strange thing is that they all look exactly the same, just like the one Chen Tao met last time. He is 2 meters tall, with a strong build, lavender skin, and dark purple eyes with no whites. The only difference is that these people have machine gun magazines on their shoulders and machine guns in their hands. Seeing this, Chen Tao frowned and said, what's going on with these ruins? Lin Na said, the other party just released a crimson light and bombed our city. At least tens of thousands of people died in that attack. Hearing this, Chen Tao understood. The Kot people came to Earth planet for resources, and to them, humans were just objects to compete with them for resources, and of course they had to be eradicated. Those Kots carrying machine guns were obviously here to clean up the humans. Chen Tao frowned and said, you are so arrogant in my territory. With that said, Chen Tao said to Nebula, Nebula, I said before that there is a sharp blade made of sharp silver material in your knowledge base. Now I need that weapon, write one for me. Received instructions, writing. Blue light spots appeared in front of Chen Tao, and the light spots swam. Not long after, a half-moon-shaped blade appeared in front of him. The blade breaks away from the constraints of gravity and is suspended in mid-air. This thing was half-moon-shaped, with a blade on the inside and a blade on the outside, with no place to hold it. The writing is complete. Nebula's mechanical voice came. Chen Tao said, how should I operate this thing? The sharp silver material, like tough silver, has the ability to be loaded into programs. You can also control the half-moon blade by controlling the silver rope. The half-moon blade is the sharpest weapon in the known universe. It is composed of second-generation genes. The body is indefensible, and it also has strong plasticity, which can be used well with micro-wormholes to carry out ultra-long-range attacks. Came a mechanical voice. Hear this. Chen Tao's heart moved. Is that so? As soon as he thought, the half-moon blade flew out and shot into a miniature wormhole. Suddenly, a miniature wormhole appeared next to a cot man. The half-moon blade flew out of the micro-wormhole and slashed at the cot man. The curt man failed to react and was instantly cut into two pieces and fell to the ground. Chen Tao's eyes lit up. Indeed it is. Under Chen Tao's operation, the half-moon blade shuttled through the miniature wormhole while harvesting the lives of the cot people. After a while, the cot soldiers who had just come down were all turned into pieces of flesh with purple blood. This shocking scene caught Lin Na's eyes. Lin Na's eyes were widened, with a look of disbelief on her face. She subconsciously looked at Chen Tao. How is this done? This is too scary. The weapon shuttled through the micro-wormhole, harvesting the lives of the intruders in pieces. Those intruders didn't even have the ability to resist. They were cut into two pieces, including the people and the guns. It was like cutting tofu, as easy and comfortable as. There were more than 100 cot people who had just jumped off the battleship, and in just a few minutes, all of these hundreds of people became pieces of meat on the ground. The one who attacked them was the man next to Lin Na, who was 2,000 meters away from the battlefield. What kind of weapon was that? What kind of fighting method was that? This was simply a one-sided massacre. After Chen Tao cleared the kits on the ground, his eyes fell on the warship above. The half-moon blade flew into the air under Chen Tao's operation. Bang! With a loud bang, the slightly smaller warship was cut off by the half-moon blade. Broken into two pieces. The warship was destroyed and fell directly from the sky. Fire splashed everywhere. Boom! The entire warship exploded in response. The warships in the air seemed to realize that something was wrong and began to rise one after another. The half-moon blade turned, flew over, and chased the warship. Lin Na on the side had her eyes widened, and her eyes were full of disbelief. Chen Tao relied on the power of one person to force the invaders' warships to fly away. What kind of power is this? Chen Tao wanted to use the half-moon blade to keep all the opponents. But halfway through the chase, Chen Tao found that the half-moon blade had stopped. No matter how Chen Tao operated it to make it move forward, it stopped there. What's going on? Chen Tao asked Xingyun. The operating radius of the half-moon blade is related to the user's mental power. You are now a second-generation gene, and the mental power you have can only control a radius of 3,000 meters at most. Chen Tao frowned. A micro-wormhole opened next to the half-moon blade, and under Chen Tao's control, the half-moon blade entered the micro-wormhole and disappeared. Chen Tao retracted his sight, looked at Lin Na, and said, after that, you will take care of the aftermath. Lin Na slowly came back to her senses, and she nodded slightly, okay. There was a micro-wormhole in front of Chen Tao, and he stepped into the micro-wormhole and disappeared from Lin Na's sight. Lin Na looked at the direction where Chen Tao disappeared. This is the real strong man, he is worthy of being the master. Lin Na pursed her lips, and her eyes were shining with a hint of light. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My time is running out. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 99. Chen Tao passed through the micro-wormhole and came to the mid-air. With his white wings spread, he flew into the sky. He passed through the clouds and the atmosphere and came to the space. The scene in front of him made Chen Tao frown suddenly. In the space above the earth, groups of fleets were like densely packed, lying across the sky. It was estimated that there were at least hundreds of ships. These were probably all the warships of the Kots. Are they planning to invade the Earth now? Chen Tao noticed from the corner of his eye that among these warships, there was a very huge warship. Needless to say, it should be the warship of the commander of this fleet. The largest mothership was surrounded by the warships next to it, in a protected posture. Chen Tao flapped his white wings and flew towards the largest warship. As soon as Chen Tao approached the fleet, suddenly, countless bullets shot at Chen Tao. Chen Tao looked at these bullets, he did not dodge, and let the bullets shoot at him. Bang, 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 bang. The bullets fired from hundreds of warships can be described as a rainstorm of bullets. This rainstorm covered Chen Tao's whole body. But these bullets had no effect on Chen Tao. In this space, there was no sound or light. You can see that the bullets fell on Chen Tao and then bounced off. The bullets felt like they were made of rubber and had no effect on Chen Tao. Chen Tao ignored these bullets and flew straight forward. Just as Leah said, the kits did not have the ability to harm the second-generation warrior genes. The weapons possessed by these warships certainly had no effect on Chen Tao, who had the second-generation warrior genes. Suddenly, the door of a warship opened. One after another, flying things, looking like motorcycles without tires, flew out of the warship. Groups of kids holding guns and riding aircraft quickly flew over here. As soon as they got close, the kids pointed their guns at Chen Tao. The bullets covered Chen Tao again, but the result was the same. Chen Tao narrowed his eyes and said, "Is this how the kids greet people? Then I have to give a little return gift." The micro-wormhole was opened, and the half-moon blade flew out of the micro-wormhole. Swish, the half-moon blade swept past. The kids who were touched by the half-moon blade were cut into two pieces. The half-moon blade cut the kids, just like cutting tofu, very easily. The half-moon blade rotated around Chen Tao, and all the kids who approached were turned into pieces of meat. Without any obstruction, Chen Tao continued to fly into the battleship. "Don't get closer." Suddenly, a voice sounded in Chen Tao's head. Hearing this voice, Chen Tao slowly stopped. Someone spoke to Chen Tao through the gene channel. If Chen Tao guessed correctly, it should be the voice of the kits. Chen Tao responded. "Let me see your Supreme Commander. I have something to ask him." "You want to see me?" that voice sounded. Hearing this voice, Chen Tao said lightly, "You? Who are you?" "I am King Kurd." The voice was deep and rich. Chen Tao said, "Well, yes, I want to see you. But I don't want to see you. If you have anything to say, just say it directly," King Kurd said lightly. "Not seeing you?" Chen Tao's heart moved, and he smiled. Will the dignified King Kurd be afraid? Chen Tao certainly knew what the guy was thinking. He was afraid that Chen Tao would chop him directly with the half-moon blade after seeing him. The other party fell into silence, probably not wanting to talk about this topic. Chen Tao said, "Okay, then say it here. I put forward my request to leave the Earth Star." "Leave the Earth Star? Did you misunderstand something? Our warships have withdrawn from the Earth Star, and now they are in space. Is it possible that this space is under the control of your Earth Star?" King Kurd said. Hearing this, Chen Tao's eyebrows slightly relaxed. It seems so. Indeed, the warships that entered the Earth star just now have evacuated. They are indeed not in the Earth star now. Chen Tao said lightly, it is indeed not, but you stay in the space near the Earth star, which hinders my eyes, so I ask you to withdraw from the outer space of the Earth star. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. You're welcome. You plan to threaten our entire Kurt fleet with your ability alone? Are you too arrogant? Chen Tao crossed his arms and smiled, with the half-moon blade surrounding him. He looked at the hundreds of warships in front of him and smiled lightly, so, you plan to give it a try. Try my half-moon blade to see if it can cut through your broken copper and iron. King Kurt fell into silence. For a long time. King Kurt said, you are cruel, we can withdraw from the outer space of the Earth star, but you remember it. King Kurt obviously didn't dare to gamble. Chen Tao saw that all the warships turned their heads and flew out. Seeing the warship disappear from sight at a very fast speed, Chen Tao slowly retracted his sight, spread his wings, flew from above, and flew into the Earth star. In the distance, a beautiful figure stood there, quietly watching Chen Tao's figure disappear into the Earth star. The owner of the beautiful figure was the dragon man Chiao. Chiao crossed his arms, looked at the direction where Chen Tao left, and said, Lin asked me to come to support the Earth star. Looking at the current situation, I don't need to take action. With the power of one person, he forced the entire Kurt battleship to retreat. It's really impressive. Chiao's eyes glowed with a strange light, there are very few men with such courage in this universe. Lin's vision is really vicious. Chen Tao didn't know that someone was paying attention to him. He returned to base 1 and landed on the deck. How's it going? Came a voice from the side. Hearing the sound, Chen Tao looked towards the source of the sound. The speaker was Wu Yao. Wu Yao looked at Chen Tao with big eyes. Chen Tao said, well, it's nothing, just a small matter. What about you? Aren't you going to work today? When Wu Yao heard this, she said, I saw the news and those things happened. Now people in the entire Tal district are very panicked. In that case, I am very worried about you. I will put down my work for the time being. Are those battleships that suddenly appeared from alien civilizations? Wu Yao looked at Chen Tao, are they planning to invade the Earth? Hearing this, Chen Tao nodded slightly and said, they are said to be people from the Kot galaxy. It is said that they have destroyed more than 10 civilizations, and our planet is their next target. However, their technology is not very good and has been destroyed by I drove away. I guess they won't invade us again for a while. Wu Yao nodded slightly and said, the technology you possess is much higher than that of our world. Without you, the Earth and stars would probably not be able to be destroyed by those beings. The pair of wings behind Chen Tao turned into white light, fell on Chen Tao's finger and turned into a ring. He looked at the sky above. The current war is no longer a small fight between the Black Swan and the Heavenly Punishment Alliance. The opponent wants to destroy the entire Earth star. If the Earth star is gone, where will Chen Tao live? How will Chen Tao's lovers survive? There is no way, Earth star must be protected. Chen Tao doesn't like war, but he has to participate in this imminent war. My time is running out. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 100. Isn't Earth a pre-nuclear civilization? How can there be people with second-generation warrior genes, and also possess such advanced weapons? King Kurt stood in front of the table, with a 3D image suspended above the table. It is the three-dimensional image of the Earth and stars, like an Earth star. King Kurt crossed his hands on his chest and stared at the Earth star in front of him. Thinking of what happened today, his face became gloomy. King, what should we do next? A person next to him asked, are we really not going to invade Earth? King Kurt frowned and said, no invasion, what a joke. We have spent more than 1,000 years preparing to get here. Have these more than 1,000 years been wasted? I just can't figure out why a pre-nuclear civilizations would have such monsters. Our current civilization still doesn't have the ability to destroy second-generation genes, but that guy has the ability to cut us into pieces at will, bastard. King Kot looked at the Kot people next to him and said, "What's the situation over there with the black demon now?" The man said, "There is a message from the black demon that the operation has been successful. Kati has been analyzed into molecules by the World Tree and dispersed in various universes." King Kurt nodded slightly and said, "Help me contact Rose." Okay, the man sat in front of the device and typed on the keyboard. The man looked at King Kurt and said, "It's connected." King Kurt nodded slightly. "Little Hood, what do you want from me?" An indifferent and arrogant female voice sounded. Hearing this voice, King Hood of Kurt slowly adjusted his mood, and he said in a respectful voice, "Your Majesty Queen, when we invaded the Earth Star, we encountered insurmountable obstacles, and I would like to ask for your help." "Oh? Dragon Man?" "No, he's an Earth Star. I don't know why. That Earth Star possesses second-generation genes, and also has a blade shaped like a half-moon. It can travel through wormholes at will and cut our second-generation genetic warriors, just like cutting as easy as tofu. You can travel through the wormhole at will, right?" A sharp silver weapon, Rose seemed to be talking to herself. Silver weapon, King Hood of Kurt expressed doubts. Rose said, "Okay, you don't have to worry about it, I will let someone deal with this person. Just wait for my news, that's it." The coat man on the side looked at Hood and said, "Wang." She hung up. Hood frowned and said nothing. "King, what should we do next?" Hood glared at the man and said, "Are your ears broken? Didn't you hear what the woman said? Wait. Wait, how long does it take to wait? We have waited for more than 1,000 years, how long does she want us to wait? Yes, if she doesn't take action, then I will have to wait forever. This is too." "Oh," Hood frowned and said, "So, are you planning to deal with that monster yourself?" All of a sudden, the place was quiet. Hood said calmly, "We can only wait. We are no match for that guy. We can only wait for that bitch to come." Within the Earth Star. After Chen Tao drove the Kot people out of Earth Star, Lin Na helped with the aftermath. Earth Star once again changed back to its previous appearance. Chen Tao also had some slight changes. In addition to daily learning binary methods, Chen Tao also has one more task. That is to teach Zi Ching to use genetic power. Chen Tao stood on the edge of the deck and looked at Zi Ching in front of him. Zi Ching changed into a black outfit that fit Zi Ching's proud figure. Zi Ching's waist was filled with a firm hand, and her upper body held up the fabric of the outfit. Her long legs, which were about 1 meter tall, were slender and straight. She wore a pair of black cylindrical high-heeled boots under her feet. Her already tall figure made her look even taller. Zi Ching is 1.72 meters tall. Among women, she is considered very tall. Her hair was tied into a single ponytail, revealing her slender neck, and she looked very capable. Zi Ching held a dark sniper rifle in both hands, and she pointed the sniper rifle straight ahead. Directly ahead, 2 kilometers away, there is a piece of Z2 material with a radius of less than 1 centimeter. Zi Ching wears transparent glasses, and blue data appears in the glasses. Her hand pulled the trigger. Bang! There was a muffled sound. Bullets were fired from the sniper rifle and struck the Z2 substance in the distance. The bullet traveled 2,000 meters. Bang! It hit the Z2 substance, and the Z2 substance was directly penetrated and shattered into pieces. See this scene. Zi Ching's eyes were shining brightly. She looked at Chen Tao and said, "Success." Chen Tao nodded slightly. Chen Tao taught Zi Ching not to aim at the Z2 substance, nor to improve her marksmanship. It would be extremely difficult to allow an ordinary girl like Ziching to shoot an object 2 kilometers away with a radius of less than 2 centimeters with a sniper rifle in a short period of time, relying on human abilities. Chen Tao taught Ziching how to use a sniper rifle by letting Ziching learn her own genetic abilities and program the bullets when she fired, so that the bullets would lock onto the enemy she wanted to hit. In this way, no matter how far away the opponent is, the bullet can lock onto the opponent and hit it directly. After these few days of teaching, Ziching finally mastered it. Chen Tao approached Ziching, gently held her in his arms, kissed her forehead, and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't want you to be exposed to this." Hearing this, Ziching smiled. She looked at Chen Tao and said with a smile, "Actually, I always wanted to help you, but I was too weak and always felt that I could do nothing. I am very happy that you are willing to teach me." Chen Tao gently stroked Ziching's hair and said, "Next, you have to learn to open and use micro wormholes. The most important thing for a sniper is to know how to protect yourself. Fire a shot and move a position. The displacement ability of the micro wormhole can improve your self-protection ability. Remember, if something dangerous happens, you must be the first to use the micro wormhole and escape to the periphery. Save your life first, understand?" Ziching was slightly startled. Chen Tao looked into her eyes and said, "Promise me that you will always put your life first." Ziching looked at Chen Tao's serious eyes. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded slightly, "Okay." Chen Tao said, "Then next, try to calculate the micro wormhole." Ziching nodded slightly and raised her hand. A micro wormhole appeared in front of her. Chen Tao had already taught Ziching the micro wormhole operation rules. The reason for teaching her at that time was to let her freely shuttle between base number 1 and the ground. But he didn't expect that Ziching had already used the micro wormhole so skillfully. Chen Tao nodded slightly. He looked at Ziching and said, "Next, you have to use the micro wormhole more. When you can use it as you like, it will be the most perfect time." Ziching nodded slightly. "Master," it was Lin Na's voice. Hearing this voice, Chen Tao's heart condensed slightly. Chen Tao can be sure that although he has driven the Kurd people away from the outer periphery of the earth, the Kurd people will definitely not give up so easily. The Kurd people will definitely have the next step. After hearing Lin Na's voice, Chen Tao had a bad premonition. Generally, Lin Na would not contact Chen Tao. If Lin Na would contact him, it must be something she couldn't solve. Chen Tao said, "What's wrong? A woman with pointy ears and gray skin is turning our people into monsters like her. I don't know how to explain this, Master. I think we need you." Chen Tao nodded slightly, "I understand." He hung up the call.